Schachter, who's currently a doctoral candidate at the University of Michigan in Ann Arbor. And Michael, one of the things I was most fascinated about reading about your musical background is how diverse your background is. You're a classical pianist, you're a jazz pianist, active in both, but you're also a student of Indian classical music, yes? And in fact, you went to India to study.
I did. The year after I finished my undergraduate degree, I had the opportunity to spend in Chennai, a city in the southeast, and I worked on Carnatic music, which is Southeast Indian classical music.
And when you say you worked on Carnatic, were you studying, were you playing?
I submitted myself to the guru system. I studied Veena, which is a stringed instrument, sort of a cousin of the sitar, and also singing. And I would show up at my guru's house every morning, and I would leave when he was done with me, and I would practice in the meantime.
Is that something you brought home to Ann Arbor? Do you still play?
I'm still reasonably active in it, and I've also branched out into theory of South Indian music too. I've returned a few times on research trips, and I try to keep up my practicing when I can.
So you play jazz, you play Carnatic music, both of which have a tremendous amount of improvisation. I mean, the music doesn't exist without improvisation. Does that inform what you do in the world of classical music?
I think it does. I try not to be too deliberate in invoking that compositional influence, but especially in hindsight, I look back at the pieces and I see that the rhythms and the types of harmonies and the way the instruments interact are influenced by the improvisational character.
So you play classical, you play jazz, you play some Carnatic music. Do you play klezmer?
I will sit in sometimes the klezmer group.
And in fact, the piece that we're about to hear is called Freiliche Tanzen.
Yes, that's Yiddish for joyous dances. The title came up, I was thinking of trying to do some sort of really festive and fun concert opener, like an opera overture. And I was reading about 19th century and early 20th century East European klezmer musicians, who at the time they would form these bands, they would rove around the countryside, and they would show up uninvited at big life events of strangers and play music furiously at them until they were paid to leave.
Not a hint for the audience tonight.
Please stay.
And how do you create a kind of klezmer sound, or at least klezmer references, with a Western symphony orchestra?
In a few ways. I did look up many old klezmer melodies, and I wove either fragments or hints or melodies inspired by them into the piece as actual material. And I also tried to preserve a lot of that irreverent character by, in some places, even poking fun at some pieces in the Western canon, albeit through maybe different musical materials or a different texture in the orchestra.
You and Gustav Mahler, you're in good company here.
That's a compliment I'm hoping to one day work my way towards.
There are klezmer references here and there in Mahler's.
Absolutely.
Michael Schachter, thank you.